आज वो ठंडा है।
हाँ सर,
कोल्ड फील हो रहा है।
नहीं सर, वो चैम्बर में हमने फैन लगा दिया था ना, इसलिए थोड़ा लग रहा है।
इसको इसका ये होगा, मैं बार-बार टेबल खुद खोलना होगा। इसको होना चाहिए स्क्रीन रिकॉर्डिंग।
इससे तो रिसीव वाला सीन है, इसमें पढ़ाई करनी है।
ठीक है,
ये इसमें वाइट बोर्ड इसमें
यस क्या है?
यहाँ पर ये टॉप्स ये लॉक हो गया।
वाईफाई भी कोई ना कोई उपाय होना है।
यूट्यूब पे सर इसका पासवर्ड कैसे
पासवर्ड तो मुझे याद है, ये ना
इसका है यूट्यूब
ओपीएस इसमें ये यूजर लगेगा, साइन इन करना। नहीं विदाउट साइन आप नहीं कर सकते इसमें। So how will you celebrate your puja? नहीं होगा सर, उसी में से कनेक्ट करना उसको, केवल डाल के ही डालना पड़ेगा। इसका एक ऑप्शन होना चाहिए ना सिलेक्ट करने का, सोर्स सिलेक्शन का एक ऑप्शन होना चाहिए। I think there must be a source selection.
अरे यूट्यूब का सदा इनको तो देखा होगा
है लेकिन बट उसमें लॉगिन मांगा है। who will keep the login मतलब
लॉगिन को थे हाँ वो तो सब कुछ लागू वाला है कितना लाख रुपए लाख नहीं जमा इसकी लागू में क्या है बस मोर मोमेंट्स एक सब बस मोर मोमेंट्स
ठीक है कनेक्ट कर एक ही बात। इधर इसको ये एंड स्ट्रीमिंग कर देना, अभी इसको ऑन करना है ना।
सिस्टम ऑन है।
अच्छा ऑन है,
सो स्क्रीन पे शेयर कर दिया था।
ओ अच्छा
सर एचडीएमआई से कॉल कर।
अच्छा सब तो काफी
मैं डायरेक्ट पे कॉल कर।
डायरेक्ट से क्या सो अलग से लेगा वाले तेरे को तेरा इस पे बोलो तुम क्या बोलो
बोलिए
ये कौन सा होगा? ये कौन सा लिखा है?
ये शेयर वाला ना
सर ठीक है।
ये क्यों आ रहा है? ये समझ नहीं आ रहा।
सर मतलब ये कहाँ से आता है सभी
हाँ दिस वन এটা বড় রেকর্ডিং না এটা মর্निंग है
आगे सर अपन जो को
ଏବେ ଯୋଉଟା କରୁଛ କୋଉଟା
सर पक्को सर से जो व्हाट्सएप टा ये लॉग आउट है बहुत छोटे मोटे लगा ना पूरी
जो से जुड़े वर्षन को भी लाइक आ जाए
सर साइबर सिक्योरिटी लिंक रे पक्को
साइबर सिक्योरिटी पड़ेगा अच्छा Therefore, session 2. ठीक है?
सर वाला देख ले
हाँ इसको मछली में कैसे
So we are discussing about the identity and access management. So identity management, also known as identity and access management, is an important aspect of cyber security, network security, and business process automation. It provides accessibility to the right personnel to access the legitimate resource across various networks, subnet, or zones in the cyber world. So, not only that, inside your campus, you can only have cyber security, identity management used. You can use it in the cloud also. Three aspects of identity and access management is: one is identity management, second is access management, and third one is a posture. What is identity management? Identity management is a set of tasks or a single task that authenticates a user in the system and provide access to the legitimate resource of an organization. Identity management is performed on the basis of personal information that authenticates the user through a password or some biometric data. How IDM is performed? IDM is mostly performed through a series of activities. They include starting with the user that he is provided with an identity, mechanism to protect the identity of a legitimate user, technology that support the production of the identity, policies, protocol, mechanism at the organization level, time to time maintenance including modification, updation, etc. of the resource allocation, rules, roles and policy, hierarchy maintenance. Hierarchy maintenance means suppose the HOD has the authority to update the requirement for the faculty member. The principal has the authority to update the HOD. So this hierarchy maintenance and deletion of identity in case it requires. Suppose somebody left the organization, then this will be deleted. What do you understand by digital? What do you understand by digital identity? Digital identity is entity's online process of encompassing personal identifiable information and ancillary information together. What is personal identifiable information? PII, like your name, your father's name, Aadhaar number, bank card. These are all your personal identity. And ancillary information means your some information may be related to this place, like your position or designation, your user ID, your email ID given by the institute, which is related to this one. So personal identifiable information are those information which are permanent. On the other hand, ancillary information are those information which have some name. It can be treated as a process of codification of identity names and related attributes of the physical instance in a way that facilitates processing. Okay, so your name has to be coded. Resource include, what do you understand by resource? Resource include data, hardware resources, networking resources, software resources, application, etc. that has a tangible or an intangible value to the organization. Resources are to be protected from unauthorized access and need privacy as it may be related to human being having huge value. For example, if this college would have been a medical college, then every patient data has to be protected, because if patient's data or patient some records like their various investigation, investigation means blood test, the X-ray, MRI, if those related informations are leaked out, then there will be a huge chaos. So, as this is being related to the human value, their data has to be protected. 4 basic function of identity management. Pure identity function like creation, management and delete, of identities. User access, that is access to digital resources like login. Service function, personalized, role-based, on-demand, presence-based service to user through their devices. And identity federation, system that rely on federated identity to authenticate user. What is basically a federated identity is you open up a Facebook account with your Google account. This is inter-platform federated identity. You use the same Google account to open Google Drive, Google Mail, Google Classroom, YouTube. So this is also federated. That means with a single identity, if you can use it in multiple applications, then that identity is known as federated identity. Identity federation or federated identity. Identity management productivity, single sign-on. Single sign-on means if your mobile is signed on with Google, then you can open up easily a Facebook account with that Google. So that's called as single sign-on. E-authentication. How will you authenticate? You know there are authenticator applications, Microsoft Authenticator, Google Authenticator. So you don't have to every time provide a password. Just you can authenticate from your mobile device. So e-authentication. Information security. So how will you, the main one is to protect the information. Access control mechanism. What access you can have. So suppose you want to access some resources in your institute and it is in the Google cloud, then you have to authenticate yourself through the Google Authenticator. Okay. So access control and network security. Even this also protects us. So these are the productivity of the identity management: single sign-on, e-authentication, information security, access control, and network security. Identity and access management service component. These are the 4 services: authentication service, authorization service, user management service, and directory service. Now let us see what is authentication service. Authentication service includes 3 things: single sign-on, multi-factor authentication, session and token management. What is multi-factor authentication? You use 2-step verification or Google Authenticator or Microsoft Authenticator. So that is multi-factor authentication. And you use OTP or TOTP, time-based OTP, for session and token management. And previous to this OTP, some banks, especially HDFC, HSBC, they used to give one dongle sort of thing. Okay, every time you press, there are 6-digit or 8-digit code used to come. So if you feed that code, only then you can log in into your internet banking at that point of time. So this is also session and token management. Next comes your authorization service. Authorization service is based on roles, rules, attributes, and privilege access. Okay, what is role? A particular person, what is his role? It has to be clarified. And based on what rule that role has been assigned. Okay. Then the attribute, example, the metadata, what is he is doing. So if I say your name is Raghunath. What Raghunath is doing? So this is Raghunath is a PhD scholar in IMIT under the supervision of Professor M.R. Kamal. So this is basically his attributes, his metadata related to a person, and then the privilege access. Normally, maybe some of the scholar may have given some access because of their nature, because of their good behavior, because of their belief. The teachers are believing them. Not all scholar has got privilege access. So maybe as Raghunath is a scholar of principal side, so he has some access to some files. So this is a privileged access. Okay. User management. Now, when we are having user management, we have four things to do: provisioning, deprovisioning, self-service, and delegation. Provisioning means as long as our Jasin sir is the HOD of computer science department, he has some access to some files, some resources. Suppose tomorrow Alok Ranjan Tripathi becomes the HOD. So those provisioning for Alok sir, the provisioning has to be done, and for Jasin sir, the deprovisioning has to be done. Got the point? When you get some responsibility, some privilege has to be provisioned. When you are relinquished of that responsibility, deprovisioning has to be done. Then the self-service. There are certain things which you have to do. For example, your leave is being sanctioned by, say, suppose the staff leave is sanctioned by the HOD. HOD's leave is being sanctioned by the principal. But whose leave is principal? Who is going to sanction the leave of principal? So actually, principal has to sanction his own leave. So this is sort of self-service. There are certain things, some privilege, which the system administrator has to give it to himself. So that option is there. And then there are delegations. Actually, in a big institute or big university, suppose the vice chancellor is supposed to approve the leave of all the faculty members. But vice chancellor has got many things to do. So he may delegate that job. He may delegate that job to the dean of faculty affairs. Or maybe he may delegate that job to the head of the departments. So this is the head of the department is actually approving the leave on the behalf of vice chancellor, honorable vice chancellor. So this is called delegation. Is it clear to you? Okay, user management. Then coming to the directory services. Directory services, identity store, directory federation, metadata synchronization, and virtual directory. What is identity store? First of all, you must know one thing, that as the identities are being created based on personal identifiable information and ancillary information, it is the foremost responsibility of the organization to protect the identity. So identity storage or identity store is going to take utmost care to protect the information related to the identity. Then identity federation. Suppose some of the identities, some of the faculty members are working in different departments. Some of the faculty members, they are working in different roles. So then his identity has to be included in computer science department, in electronics department, in MBA department. So this is called directory federation. It is actually not restricted to one place, but it is federated across various departments or verticals or something like that. Then the metadata synchronization. So as and when Jaising sir is in charge of the HOD, his metadata is there. As soon as the new person come in place of him, his metadata has to be synchronized. And then virtual directory. Now instead of keeping the directory here in the institute, because at some point of time, which time you set up some resources in the cloud, and you want the same directory mechanism to give control or give access through that identity and access management system which is there in the virtual world. So you have to create some cloud-based virtual directory which you can upload it in the cloud and then use it. What is the advantage of it? The problem is that if you have a local in-premise directory management system, then unless and until you reach institute, you cannot access it. But if you have a virtual directory which is in the cloud, you can definitely use it from your phone. Now comes to the mobile identity management. Mobile identity is an online authentication and digital signature where the mobile number works as an identity tool. Mobile identity authenticates and signing of transaction for online banking, mobile banking, payment confirmation, corporate service, consumption of online content, and usage of OTP and POTP in the system. Now, for taking a home loan or for taking a car loan, an incumbent did not have to go to the bank. He can sit at his home and in the national e-governance system, he can use his Aadhaar based or Aadhaar connected mobile number and get that Aadhaar OTP and sign, put digital signature on his behalf. Okay. Identity management in the cloud. Okay. Cloud identity management primarily deals with system, networks, files, and applications. Similar to that. Okay. Cloud management identity. Cloud identity management, also known as directory as a service. देखिए, platform as a service, system as a service, software as a service, platform as a service, infrastructure as a service. These are the three things I think you have heard about the cloud. Now, directory as a service, instead of creating the directory in the in-premise system, we create the directory in the cloud. Okay. It is a modern adaptation of Active Directory or lightweight directory access protocol. The adaptation focuses on directory service being used on any OS-based application or on local or remote resources. Focuses on being multi-protocol so that any resource can be connected in native authentication language. What DAS or directory as a service let you do? Securely connect employee their devices, application and network. Enjoy zero management overhead with improved security and user manageability with your directory service as a SaaS-based solution, software as a service. Now, what is the advantage of using a directory as a service instead of keeping an identity service engine or an LDAP server or an AD server? You have to spend cost for that. But if you go and take a directory service in the cloud, you can operate it from anywhere. Okay. Connect your cloud servers to the existing AD and LDAP, extend AD and LDAP directly to the cloud, manage your desktop, laptop in multiple platforms, irrespective of the physical location, connect user to application with LDAP authentication, and manage user access to Wi-Fi network securely through cloud radius services. Now, this is up to here, this is identity management. Coming to access management. Access management or A is a process of identifying, tracking, controlling, and managing authorized or specific user access to the resource. So earlier in identity management, we have created the identity, managed the identity, and everything we have done for the identity purpose. Now this identity will be used for accessing or giving specific access to the resources of the network or resources in premise or resources in the cloud. The resources may be a system, application, any IT infrastructure or data. Now this application may be on cloud, application may be in premise. So, नहीं, उसका बैटरी बैकअप नहीं।
স্যার খুঁজলে যে কম করে হবে যদি ব্লগ না থাকে আমি করব সেটা কিন্তু স্যার রিভিউ ব্লগ করে নিয়ে দেবো
कितना डिले है डिले कैसे हो रहा है पता नहीं।
सर अभी अभी तक तो ठीक ठाक चल रहा है
Access management is primarily on information security, IT and data governance process using granting access to valid user and prohibiting invalid user. AM is typically used in conjunction with identity management, and that is why it is generally known as identity and access management. This is the difference between identity and access management. Okay. यूज टू हाँ
सर उसमें लाइव तक नहीं आ
लाइट वाला
नहीं सर नहीं
So, identity management create, provision and control different user role, group and policy, whereas access management ensure that these roles and policies are followed. Identity management also maintain the privacy, user identity and profile. AI-based application or system store different users' role, their profile, and process user access requests based on their data, profiles, or roles. Now coming to the posture management. Posture management can be defined as the security status of an enterprise network, information system based on information security resources and capability in place to manage the defense of enterprise and to react to the situation. This is the definition given by NIST, that is National Institute of Standards and Technology, USA. Posture management, how does it work or how is to be done? In order to improve the resiliency of the IT or network infrastructure, we must have a cyber security risk framework. We need to have prioritized, flexible, repeatable, performance-based, and cost-effective approach that will be adopted by the organization that owns and operates critical infrastructure. This is posture management is basically for the critical infrastructure. Critical infrastructure are defined as those systems whose incapacity or destruction may lead to disaster in terms of national security, economic disaster, or country-wide public health disaster or similar disaster or failure. The community of critical infrastructure include resources that are owned and managed by government, public, and private stakeholders. For example, here in India, failure of state data center of a province is basically a national disaster. How posture management is implemented? First of all, there are two ends of the posture management: implementation and risk management. There will be three levels through which the posture management is done: senior executive level, business process level, implementation, and operational level. A schematic diagram is given to show you how this is being done. So at the senior executive level, the focus is organizational risk. What are the risks in the organization? Action, express mission priorities, approve implementation, tire selection, direct risk decision. So, what are the risks you are going to mitigate? What are the risks you are going to take with? This is at the senior level. Senior level is हमारा कितना business आएगा? ओके हमारा कितना बिजनेस आएगा उसके लिए हमें कितना रिस्क लेना पड़ेगा दैट इज ऑल अबाउट एट द बिजनेस प्रोसेस लेवल फोकस इज ऑन क्रिटिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रिस्क मैनेजमेंट द टॉप लेवल विल नॉट थिंक टॉप लेवल क्या बोलेगा ऐसा करना है करो एट द मिडिल लेवल इट फोकसेस ऑन क्रिटिकल इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर रिस्क मैनेजमेंट हमारे इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर को बचाने के लिए कितना खर्चा करेंगे क्या करेंगे Action, nominate implementation time, develop profiles and allocate budget. Now the middle people say what happened in government now? The government will say we have to roll out this scheme, we have to do this and that. Now the middle people will actually tell what will be the cost of doing it. Okay. And at the implementation level, securing critical infrastructure and implement profile. So at the ground level, you have to secure the infrastructure. After all, say for example, law and order. If anything has to be incorporated, say for example, कि मान लीजिए आपके यहाँ बाली यात्रा करना है, बाली यात्रा में कुछ इवेंट हो रहा है बाली इस मैदान में. So who will take the initiative? Maybe the chief minister of the state will announce that. Now, whose job is to make the law and order, say district administration and collector and other thing. Now when it comes to, for example, when it comes to the law and order, who is going to look into that? The police people. They have to manage the crowd. You got the point. Similar kind of activity is there also here. Here also similar kind of activity will be there, and this is on the three-tier architecture. This is the topmost is the risk management, below is the implementation of that. Now this is identity and access management. Coming back to that, now let us see the cloud-based system of this. Okay. Are you getting bored?
No, sir.
Okay. Now let us see the cloud-based identity and access management. We have two things left for tomorrow. One is the cloud security and another one is the storage security. So here we will have cloud-based access management. Then we can close this session. So these are all the same thing we have gone through it. Same thing. Now we can have the relationship between asset, this is digital identity transformation. Now here, from here we can have this. Okay, so let us have one or two slides. Digital identity transformation. Digital identity transformation can be termed as a holistic assessment and improvement of business process, people and technology to achieve excellence in identity and access management, system security, data privacy and regulatory compliance. DIT is achieved with a combination of the policies, process, re-engineering, organizational changes, awareness and training and improvement of the system capabilities as well as continuously monitoring and adjustment. Objective of digital identity transformation. What it does? Improve access management, ensure compliance, improve user experience and productivity, reduce operating cost, ensure system and data security, be resilient. Okay, resilient means you will be able to handle any catastrophic event, engage consumer and customer, prepare for audit, reduce fraud and incidents, share information across applications. So these are the main objective of it. Now coming to that, we have the case studies of two things, Microsoft Entra and Azure role-based access control. Now let us see how this works. Microsoft Entra ID, or formerly Azure AD. Microsoft Entra ID is an integrated cloud identity and access solution for managing directly enabling access to the application and protecting the identity. So we have HR system, external identity, workload identities. We have a Microsoft Entra application that is a cloud-based application, and it is looking for on-premise as well as Active Directory. So you have on-premise application and Active Directory, and on the top you have SaaS app and cloud infrastructure, and you are connecting it through the devices. You are connecting it through the devices. Features of Microsoft Entra: app integration and single sign-on, passwordless and multi-factor authentication. So I will tell you, if you have a Microsoft Authenticator, you need not to every time log in into your email. Just you put your ID and just some number will be displayed. Use the mobile device to connect. Conditional access. On certain situation you can access it, on certain situation you cannot access it. Identity protection. As not every time your identity is visible, it's only visible with your devices. You can protect your identity. Nobody else can access that identity without your consent. Maybe in the hierarchy. Maybe only your boss, your manager, your supervisor, he or she can access. Privilege identity management. There are certain privilege identities which you can manage. End user self-service and unified admin center. So you can have a unified admin center. See, coming to this, app integration and single sign-on. With this single sign-on, you can see here the beauty of this. It not only accesses only the Microsoft accounts, but you can have access to more than various here. This is a federated identity management. You can access Box, you can access travel apps, you can access Adobe Creative Cloud, you can access ADB, you can access Entra permission management. Okay, so you can have a lot of Salesforce. You can access Salesforce. So these are the various applications which has tied up with Microsoft Entra for a single sign-on federated. That means if your organization has given you a user ID and password, you can use all these applications provided your organization has taken license for each application. Okay. Here is the passwordless. So you just, if I click like this, rc.writer.outlook.com, and in the authenticator, some number comes, just to select it and it will be connected. Conditional access. Conditional access enables the administrator to take adequate measure in case of increase in risk and to better manage the resource, including compromises of the resource. Now today what happened, after I booked the premium Tatkal ticket, I cannot download the PDF file. It is saying now it is not. So it's a conditional access. Right now, within 1 hour of the ticket purchase, you cannot download it. The PDF file. So just to avoid or just to mitigate the fraud. Okay. So here also, enforce access control with adaptive policy, help protect data inside application, and restrict access to vulnerable and compromised devices. So it looks into that. Identity protection. It may be noted that protection of identity is of utmost importance for both organization as well as individual. This is due to the fact that identities are made of personal identifiable information and ancillary information. This is achieved by the following measure: automate detection and remediation of identity-based risk. If your identity is at risk, the system will block your identity automatically. prevent identity compromise, help protect against credential theft, and deepens insight into your identity security posture. How you are working with your identity, whether you are following the compliances or not. If you are not following the compliances, it will not be there. I will tell you an example after the streaming is closed. There was one example. Privilege identity management. In every organization, there are some privilege accounts that are to be managed with the utmost security. इसमें भी एक केस हुआ इधर इसको भूलेंगे हाँ privilege identity management strengthen the security of your privilege account. This is done using the following method. Privilege identity management provide time-based and approval-based role activation to mitigate the excessive risk, unnecessary or misuse access to important resources in your organization. End user self-service. इसके बाद सर खत्म कर देंगे. This helps the employee to securely manage their own identity and self-service portal, including My App, My Access, My Account, and My. It is important that it reduces downtime. Now see here. This is the Microsoft Privilege Identity Management System. This is in the cloud. This is, you need not to maintain anything. Microsoft will provide you in the cloud. Okay. So you have in the admin part, Microsoft Entra Admin Center, you have all my roles, my requests, my approval requests. So you can see everything there. And it is based on the hierarchy, including now Government of India is also bringing Samarth. So in the Samarth also that hierarchy is being maintained. That's a cloud application that has been hosted, and it is probably developed by the MHRD. So this kind of things will come. Okay. Then you have Microsoft, how to manage Microsoft Entra roles, group, Azure resources, and these things. So let me show you here. Now, here I come to the Azure Role-Based Access Control, RBAC. Azure Role-Based Access Control or Azure RBAC help you to manage who has access to the Azure resources, what they can do with these resources, what are they have access to. Azure RBAC is an authorization system built on Azure Resource Manager that provides fine-grained access management to Azure resources. Now, what is Azure? Basically, Azure is the cloud version of the Active Directory. Microsoft का जो cloud है उसको Azure cloud बोलते हैं, आप सुने होंगे. So Azure role based system, देखिए अगर आप इसको आप day to day में काम करेंगे ना, because these are very, you are listening to this as a very, and you feel that it is awkward, क्या है, yeah. But if you work with this now, which is the IT and ITS people are doing, it's a very fantastic system. And you can, the beauty of this is you can access this entire system sitting at your home. You need not to come to office. And this is the way, this is why it has become possible to work from home. This is the only way it has become possible to work from home. How Azure RBC works? Okay. Azure RBC control access to resource by assigning Azure roles. So Azure roles are basically on the access management part. And our role assignment consists of three elements: the security principle, the role definition, and the scope. Now there are three types of security principles, or four types of security principles. You can see here: user, group, service principle, and managed identity. Okay, this is a security principle. Out of these four, any one can become a security principle. Okay, a security principle is an object that represents a user, group, service principle, or a managed identity that is requesting access to the Azure resources. You can assign a role to any of these security principles. Role definition. Coming to the role. Okay. A role definition is a collection of permission. What you can access, what you cannot. What you can modify, what you cannot. Okay. To prevent confidentiality and integrity. Coming to that part again. It is typically just called a role. A role definition lists the actions that can be performed such as read, write, delete. Role can be high level like owner, specific like virtual machine reader, etc. Scope. Scope is a set of resources that the access applies to. Role can be read, write, delete. अपडेट भी तो किया तो राइट ही कर रहे हैं एक्चुअली. Now, scope is the set of resources that the access applies to. कभी कभी बोलते हैं ना मेरे jurisdiction में नहीं है, मेरा scope में नहीं है. That means I don't have the scope for that particular resource. So scope is a set of resources that the access applies to. You can assign a role. You can further limit the action followed by defining a scope.
So it can be right.
It can be a
Right.
It can be right. Say for example, suppose what is your name? Nandini. Nandini is having a manager who is Raghunath. Now Raghunath has the scope of accessing as well as writing, but Nandini has only the scope of accessing it, reading it, not writing it. You got the point? So that is the scope. When you assign a role, you can further limit the action following allowed by defining a scope. दोनों को एक ही सेम रिसोर्स का रोल दिया गया है, but here is the right access to right access, but you have a read access. Got it? This is helpful if you want to make someone website contributor, but only for one resource group. In Azure, you can specify a scope at 4 levels: management group, subscription, resource group, resource. Scopes are structured in the parent-child relationship. You can assign roles to any of these levels of scope. So this is basically the intra part of it. Now, once you close this streaming function by as it is recording, then I will give you 2 stories which are there. Okay. So you stop this and then I will tell you the story because it should not be recorded. Okay.
Should we?
You can close this. Presentation is over.
The difference between server and the cloud.
Ma'am, actually server you have a device which is there in your data center or computer lab or something like that. Cloud is actually you don't have a system like that.